What's up, everybody? Welcome to Lines In Live. I'm your host, Justin Patrick, and got David in here somewhere. Hold on a second. There we go. We getting you. What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well tonight, man. Me and David, we're going to be recapping some Lake Eufala tonight. David, do you have your camera off?
No, not.
Here we go. All right, so we're Lines In Live. We're powered by Battle Worn Batteries, presented by Primary Tackle. Yeah, David, you are not on here, buddy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Remember that? Well, there we go. I don't know what the heck was going on because I saw the 3, 2, 1, and then I was just still blank.
Yeah. I had it all along. Oh. I'm just kidding. No, I had it. There's this button over here you can click for solo on or solo off, and I accidentally just hit solo on.
You still want me on the show? That's all.
Yeah, no. Well, love having you on here, man. But what's up, everybody? What's up, David Walker? Guys, you know, we're excited to be back with you tonight. We were absent last week. Dave and I were both getting ready to head down to Lake Eufala in Eufaula, Alabama, for the Hobie Bass Open Series. And so, you know, we're back tonight with, you know, we're going to be doing a little bit of a recap. You know, it's interesting, David. You know, we were so geared up for that tournament, and we're going to be talking a lot about it tonight. Our failures, what we learned, which I don't know if it's much, but you know, we're gonna.
I'm gonna call this one "Bonehead Days in Alabama" because that's about what my weekend was just boneheaded mistakes.
Yeah, we just went on vacation is all we did.
Yeah,
that's all that amounted to. But I don't know if it's just because I look for something to justify the, you know, just the embarrassment, you know, of not catching fish. But I pretty much just determined that I just really like traveling. I love traveling. I love seeing new stuff, and I love going to Alabama, man. It is a beautiful part of the country. But
I guess.
Well, sir. Well, on the way back, man, driving around like the outskirts of Birmingham, around Gadsden and stuff like that. That area is.
Well, you came the scenic route back, yes. I was on the interstate the whole way, so I mean, yes, you did get to see some of the scenic part.
I veered off to go to Whataburger. You and I talked about this. I veered off to go to Whataburger. I mean, literally right off the interstate. And I guess it was like, you know, it just had a brain fart or something and just rerouted me from that point. I mean, we're talking like an eighth of a mile off the interstate. So it rerouted me through the scenic route, but I enjoyed it. I was like, you know, I was kind of happy it did. And I hate driving through Birmingham, man. Those roads are so bumpy, dude. I mean,
yeah, it was bad.
It's like coming, you know, it's like, you know, driving around out there by Pickwick on the Mississippi side on 72. Dude, those roads are terrible.
Yeah. Well, traffic was horrendous coming through there Sunday afternoon, just like it was going through there on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
Or Wednesday afternoon. Really.
Yeah. Well, you know, anybody that followed the Hobie BOS event on Eufaula, if you on Tourney X, man, you know, it was no brainer. Yeah, I hope you guys are, David. He said we're working on 72.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, you need to work on that. But if you followed along at all, you know, you could tell it was a really tough event, and surprisingly a tough tournament, man. You know, I think you can attest that too. Eufaula, you've got experience there. You were expecting a really good tournament. You know, 60, 65 degree water temps, upwards of 73 by late afternoon. I mean, dude, everything about this just screamed that it was going to be a slugfest, you know, but it wasn't. Yeah. You were going to say something?
Yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, when a 14-inch average gets you a check.
Yeah.
Had you told me we were going to Eufaula and I wasn't going to be able to catch a 14-inch average of 10 fish for 2 days, I would put a lot of freaking money on me getting it done.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think everybody did, man. It was my first time there, so all I had to go off of was the hype.
yeah,
It's one of those destination lakes. People hear about it.
yeah,
You see the videos of the elites and MLF. I mean, but it just it was a complete and utter just shock. And I don't know if there was just some really crazy conditions that we didn't account for that that made it tough, but and we're not here to make excuses. We've laughed about it. We're moving on, but we're going to take this and we're going to use it as a learning opportunity. But I want to read something real quick because this speaks volumes to us as anglers. And it's a quote by Mark Cuban: "Work like there is someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you." And man, if you think about that for a second, when we're out in the water, when tournaments are tough, when the situation's tough, it's so important to continue grinding through it and and just keeping your head to the grindstone and working as hard as you can. And that's a really hard, that's really, really difficult, when you get out there and, you've got a game plan and you're confident in it. And then just something happens and you are just not catching fish. And it's 2 hours in, you don't have a fish, 4 hours in, you don't have a fish. Even, and really, especially when it's 6 hours in and you don't have a fish. So I just want to say, officially my hat's off to the people that caught fish, that kept their head to the grindstone, their nose to the grindstone, and just worked through it and figured out a way to catch some fish. Truly, I mean that's it's incredible for Bailey. I forget his last name, or maybe that was his first name. Would you say it was
Egbert?
Egbert. Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it.
Oh, probably butchered it, but
yeah, close enough. Egbert and Ron Champion came up and caught a stud, in the last couple hours there and took second place. Josh Stewart, he's been on a roll here lately. Yep. Did really well. So I mean, there were some anglers that that got on them. But David, I want to first ask you, from your consensus overall, we'll get into details and stuff, but did it seem like the fish were really consolidated to a certain area of the lake?
Yes. When you consider that second place, third place, eighth place, and I think two others were sitting right there in the little 1 mile stretch I was in, 2 mile stretch I was in. Yeah. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know where everybody was that finished in the top 20, which is everybody that was paid. But man,
around me.
Yeah,
and that's the painful part.
Well, when our buddy Palmer said that, or who was Jason Carr, I room with him. When Jason said that he showed up to the same ramp, and there was 50 trucks in line at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, bass boats, they can put in wherever they want, run wherever they want. But these days with gas prices like they are, most guys are probably putting in really close to where they're going to fish.
Yeah.
So. But it was interesting. Beautiful lake, beautiful. I mean, nice area. We ate some great Mexican food. I think every night we had Mexican.
We had Mexican Thursday night, Saturday night. Didn't eat Mexican Friday night because we had pizza, cold pizza.
Yeah, that's right. Because I stopped by Chick-fil-A on the way. Yeah, I didn't get in on that nice cold pizza.
Yeah.
But awesome tournament, man. AJ and Hobie as always did an absolute awesome job. David Walker been there, got down to 45 minutes left and caught 3 back-to-back and ended up winning by a 1/4 inch. Nice, good deal. What's up, Seth Breckenridge? Hope you're doing good. But yeah, man, it really did seem like it, But I want you to kind of talk about your practice. We'll jump into the actual tournament, but your practice. What did it look like for you? What was your game plan going into and just practice itself?
My game plan going into practice is I wanted to hit a few different areas and just kind of look at the lake and see some things, spend a little time, seeing some of the different boat ramps, seeing what the water conditions were in different places. So most of the day Thursday, honestly, I hit 3 ramps Thursday, fished first place for a couple hours, second place for an hour, another place for another hour, but then spent a lot of time driving and just kind of looking at the lake and looking it over. I had a specific area I was going to go to start my tournament practice. I went there. I spent about 3 or 4 hours there that morning. I did catch a couple of decent fish there. I had something I felt like I could go and do and spend some time doing and catch some fish, and I probably should have done that during the tournament. But then through practice, I was struggling with catching fish in different areas, and the lake was muddier than I remembered. And that's the thing about memory and fishing off of your past knowledge that you have to get past. When you get it somewhere and it's not what you remember, you can't let it spin you out. And I kind of did. I mean, that's really kind of what I did. I was used to being up in that Lake Point area, and the water was clean with lots of hydrillas and spatterdocks and lots of hyacinth, and it wasn't there. I mean, there was some there, and there was a heck of a lot more little bitty alligators than I remembered being there too. But so it was a lot different. And then I went to some other areas and saw kind of the same kinds of things. And I went way, way up that Lake Point area on day 2 for practice, and got up there, and it looked gorgeous. I mean, well, it didn't look gorgeous, but I mean, the water was muddy, but there was more hyacinth. There was more of the things I was looking for. There was current flowing through the creek in there, and we went in there, and I spent maybe hour and a half and never got a bite. And so it just kind of messed with my head a little bit. Went and looked at a couple other areas, didn't do much in any of those areas either, and was kind of like, I just don't know what I'm going to do. And, day 1 of the tournament, we actually punted. And we were driving down the road, and there's a boat ramp that we hadn't fished out of. And when we drove past it, our buddy Brandon Elrod from Kayak Cushion was following me, and we were headed to a particular boat ramp. And when we passed it, I didn't get probably 300 yards past it, and I'm dialing the phone, Brandon, I'm going to turn around. I'm going back to this boat ramp right here. I want to just go ahead and get up there. And he goes, okay, he goes, I was just fixing to call you. I was thinking the same thing. We pull in, and we were running a little bit late on top of that, and we get in the water, and I look at the water. I'm like, well, crapola, this is where I should have been 2 days ago. And that was the one boat ramp probably on the whole freaking lake I never looked at.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and of course that's where a lot of the guys did really, really well.
Yeah.
So,
for people, just kind of put into perspective, when we got down there, a lot of the lake was muddy, up the river. I started out up the river. The river itself was muddy. So, halfway into the creeks was dirty. And as you progress down the lake closer to the dam, it, progressively got a little bit cleaner and cleaner. You guys have been fishing for a long time. You know what I'm talking about. Everything flows down down towards the dam ultimately, and of course the dam area is cleaner and deeper and stuff like that. So, it's just naturally going to, it's deeper. So it's naturally going to clean up a little bit faster. But, it was weird, like, the big pocket, I'm still butchering it, but patula or whatever it was called, kind of like, the first quarter of the mouth of that creek was clean, but as you progressed towards the back, where that creek was running in, it dirtied up. And we really didn't have like crazy winds or anything like that. And that lake seems to take a while to really, really clean up. But starting on Saturday, a lot of people were saying that the areas that they were in were cleaning up and stuff. But I got a little bit of the heads up from somebody. I shared it with all you guys and stuff down there in the houses and whatnot. And that they were talking about how the guy at the ramp was talking about how the lake had come up, quite a bit. They dumped a lot of water down into Eufala, and it brought the lake levels up a lot. and then it dropped, so it drastically dropped. And David, from it looked like some of those big fish that were caught, like the giants, the 22 plus ones, those look pre-spawn to me, unless they were just spawned out and just still had just real big saggy bellies. But what's your take? Do they look like pre-spawn or spawners to you?
Yeah, about half and half. I mean, about half of them look like they were, half of them look like they weren't. And like the area that one Ron caught, the area he was in, or the area I think he was in, that would have almost had to have been a spawning fish where it was. Because there would have been no reason for that big of a fish to have been sitting if not a quarter of a mile, but hundreds of yards over a 2 foot deep flat into some cypress trees in the back of this little pocket. I mean, unless that was a spawning fish, or she was fixing to, or ready to, or about to, and he kind of catches that on a freaking cypress tree in the middle of this little grove.
Yeah,
what else is it going to be?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know about you. I've never really just gotten too much into the lunar phases, the lunar calendar, and all that kind of stuff. But it was something that I was thinking about, during the tournament, because especially on Saturday, because man, I was, I told you guys I had about a 1.5 2 mile stretch that I had caught about a 20, 21 incher and a 17 on Thursday evening, late Thursday evening. And when I got out there Saturday morning, I mean, there was shad spawn going crazy, just that entire stretch. I mean, and I threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at them, and nothing, not a sniff, not a bump, nothing, And so when that happens, you're like, dude, what in the world? I mean, there's so much bait up here, everything's pointing that there should be bass just going crazy, but I started thinking about that lunar calendar, and I was listening to the Paddle and Fin podcast earlier. They had Cody Milton on, and they were going into depth on the lunar calendar and whatnot. And the host asked Cody, if he believed in that. He said, absolutely, I always have. Ever since I was young, I've always believed in the lunar calendar, and I wonder if that really played a big role in this tournament. That since we were we were past that full moon, and everything, the new moon and whatnot, and it's starting to get down to like that half moon, quarter moon. I don't know the complete the correct terminology for it, but that changes a lot of things. And then on top of that, you have the changing water conditions and everything, the water clarity, the dropping water and whatnot. It seemed like there was just so many factors that were really just, playing negatively on the fishing, making it really tough. And then on top of that, there was an unbelievable amount of pressure on the lake. Crappie anglers and just, bluegill anglers, everybody and their mama was out there, and it wasn't like they were out there pleasure boating. They were out there fishing. Like everybody was there fishing,
Yeah.
So. I don't know. So, my plan was pretty similar. I wanted to eliminate water. I looked at some stuff up the river first off, and it looked really, really good. Got way back up into some of the sloughs, and the water cleaned up. I mean, it looked just absolutely phenomenal. Cypress trees, as far as you could see, just right on the bank, shaded banks. Everything looks so good. I mean, it almost seemed like you could throw a bottle cap up there and catch a fish, but it just not a sniff. Got way off in the back of some of those sloughs. Had isolated grass patches, and lily pad, patches and stuff like that out in the middle of the pockets. I mean, just God, it looks so good, David. I mean, picture perfect. And just not a sniff. But and you're looking around, and nobody else is catching anything either. I mean, the locals, they're packing up shop and they're heading out. At 7:00 in the morning. So I don't know. But similar to you, I found a little area that had some fish, and then of course, it just was weird how it didn't pan out. But
No, I get it. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think really, this is the other thing that I kind of took from what we saw. I caught 4 really good fish on Sunday, and literally they were in a 30-yard stretch of bank. Now I went through that stretch of bank to catch those 4 fish 10 times, but I had fished through a big area on day 1 and only caught 1 fish exactly where I would have thought I would have caught him, and would have thought I would have caught more fish on that same point, grass point, and would have thought I would have caught more fish there. But then I fished through, and then the next day, I violated one of my rules. One of my main things is I never stay within 2 miles of a boat ramp, especially when I see a bunch of people there.
Yeah.
I normally will pedal 2 miles before I ever start fishing, just so that I can get away from the bulk. And literally on day 2, when they want to catch 1 fish, day 2, I go another half mile down the river, and I find a group of fish. So, and they were all in that one little area, and it was just a gorgeous little bank. If I had went just a little further on day 1 and seen that bank, I would have probably went down there.
Yeah.
And nobody, but of all those, but there was 12 boats that launched out of the boat ramp I was in. Nobody went past that point except me in 2 days. So those fish were left alone all day Saturday. No, I never saw anybody go past. There was a point about mile and a quarter down from the boat ramp, and I saw Ron Champion fishing area, and he left from that point and came back towards the dam. There were several other guys that would go to about that point, and they'd go back towards the dam, and nobody went down that bank.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is when you went down that bank a little ways, if the water had been about 1.5 foot higher, there was a little backwater area that if I could have got in there, I know I could have caught some big fish in there. Of course, there was a couple of gator guarding that little cut that morning too. So,
yeah. Yeah, I guarantee you, I saw Siddiqui, Eric Siddiqui, his recap of the tournament. And I was really looking for those guys that are offshore fishermen that grew up either fishing Pickwick or Kentucky Lake. Ron Champion and Jay Wallen, they're both Kentucky Lake guys. Siddiqui grew up fishing Pickwick. So I was really looking forward to seeing what those guys recaps were, except, of course, Ron did really good. But I would bet, I saw that Siddiqui said that he looked a lot out offshore. And I did as well, when it was, because even in practice, it's not like it was the golden era in practice. And then it just got really tough. And, during the tournament, all day Saturday, although I wasn't really, really trying hard to catch fish. Friday, I wasn't really trying to hard catch fish just because, you don't want to sore lip them all. But, typically, if you're fishing good looking stuff, you're going to get a bump, you're going to be able to shake one off here and there. I didn't have any of that. I wasn't shaking anything off, It was still really tough on Friday. So I went out offshore and looked at some really juicy stuff, around islands and ledges and whatnot. And I would guarantee you that, Wallen did as well. These being offshore anglers, they understand it, and Siddiqui, that he's really good at fishing road beds and, which is an offshore structure. And they all struggle. So, the consensus was it wasn't happening offshore, and I even went back out offshore at my second spot on Saturday just because I'm like, man, there wasn't anything around that shad spawn, dude. So for you, like you were saying that, most anglers didn't go past that point. I bet a lot of people did, and look outside that point, in practice, but just nothing about it was saying that you should even be out there because it was 65-degree temps in the morning. Yeah. Even on Pickwick, in the 1st of June, water temps are like 75 and stuff like that in the morning time. So it definitely seemed like there was a very small bite window, that you basically just had to grind it out and have that confidence and knowing that at some point in time, hey, these fish are going to move up on these cypress trees or whatever, and they're going to trigger and they're going to start biting. Or, and like when you're talking about covering a lot of water and just going a little bit further, and finding some groups of fish somewhere.
Right. Yeah. But I do know that roadbed up there around where we were. There were several fish that got caught off of it. I watched. I think it was Cody Milton was up there with us too.
Was that out on the dam or by the dam?
It was out. It was off the bank, just off that bank, that right hand dam side bank. There's an old roadbed out there, and you saw a lot of bass boats fishing it on Saturday. And I watched, I think Cody Milton catch one off of it. I don't, you know me, I don't know who half of these guys are, but I think that's who it was. And I know as I was coming in on Sunday, I watched Joe McElroy catch one off of it. And he said that was the first fish he'd caught in 2 days. And then he ended up with 3 fish on Saturday or Sunday. So he caught 2 more off that roadbed, most likely Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. But yeah, you had a really tight window in the morning, at least ways I did. Because I caught my one on Saturday, but like at 8 o'clock and never got another bite after that. And then on Saturday, man, the area I was fishing, I watched as I was fishing down that bank, I watched the shad spawn coming in, and it came in, and you saw, and literally when they hit that grass, the grass started moving from all the shad moving through that grass, and I could hear fish blowing up on them, but I couldn't catch them. But then after that thing died down a little bit, then I started catching some fish.
Yeah.
And I caught 3 or 4 really quick, which one I got 3 on the Tourney Export, but I have 1 fourth one that didn't get to count. But
yeah, I'm gonna pull up this this map of Lake Eufala, and because I want to talk about this area, because I looked at this area a lot, and in preparation, I liked it. I never made it there because I found that area. I mean, dude, there was so much activity in that area. There's so much fish and bait and stuff. I was like, man, this is, I mean, it was one of those spots where you thought to yourself, I can catch 5 fish here, both days. It just looked that good. But I'm gonna pull this up because I want to show everybody what we're talking about. Let me get it real quick. Dude, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All
okay,
right.
let me get zoomed in on here. On this here. Is it moving?
Yeah, it's moving. Come on up.
Okay, so this is I know there's a lot of anglers down here, but there's some anglers up here as well. And just for reference, this is one of the bigger creeks. This is where I was fishing. This stretch that I was at was along this bank, shaded in the morning, and you could just, you see how much larger of a creek arm that this is compared to these creek arms down here. And what appealed to me about this area was that, given the time of day, being in that it's given the time of year, given that it's a more southern lake, you're going to have a lot of fish doing coming and going.
Right.
And this is one of those kinds of areas that fish can move in and out of very quickly. They can come up here, they can spawn on these little pockets. And I'm trying to get I don't want to do anything stupid to lose my feed here, but I was trying to get the Google image. But there's a lot of like little backwater sloughs and a little protected pond. Like this little area right here is a big pond, right here, real protected, cypress trees, and there's rock all up in there. This whole little area up in here, is the same kind of deal. And then
the weekend was in that pocket.
This pocket.
Yep.
Yeah. And even
actually it was one above it, but
even this is Sandy Branch. So this whole area down here, and I mean, this area right here, I did go up in this was 2 feet deep, but it had lily pads all up in it. Yep. But these fish, they can come up in here, they can spawn, they can dip back out, and you had deep water, starting right here. Even you had some really defined creek channels that would actually, I think it was this cove right here. There's really defined creek that came all the way up in here and went up in there. So I mean, they can, that's big fish, route right there. They can come right off the main lake, follow that creek channel, get up in here and spawn and dip right back out.
Yeah.
But it's so, you just kind of putting it into perspective, you guys can tell. I mean, and here's some, here's some of the other, big creek arms and stuff that White Oak was, you were hearing some people talk about it a little bit. This looked really good. And then, this is a really big popular area, Lake Point and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then even going up the river, you've got a lot of backwater area. A lot. I mean, there's not a boat ramp. There's one right here, but that's about a 2.5 mile pedal, and then probably another, mile and a half to get up in here. But that looked really, really good. Never got up in there. But I mean, just the whole lake was everything looked really good.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what I think appealed to a lot of the anglers as well that did really good, is that they could catch, they could find fish coming and going down there on that southern end, and I think that some of those fish that were being caught were moving up to spawn. I mean, they had some big old fat bellies, and they weren't like, like big bellies, like, they were full of roe, you know what I mean?
Well,
not full of shad as much.
I was going to say, I mean, that first 17 and a quarter that I caught that got denied because my dumb butt had the day one identifier on it on day 2.
We won't
that
mention
fish
why.
looked like a spawning fish, but it was not a spawning fish because it was full of shad, and it still had a shad. This was the crazy part. It still had a shad trying to digest it when it ate my spinner bait. I'm like, what are you going to do? Are you going to carry this bait that you just ate around in your mouth till you get the other one swallowed, and then you're going to eat it?
Yeah. Yes.
But,
well, we've all caught them, where the shad, where the tails are sticking out of their throats,
but
I don't know about you.
Crazy.
I don't know about you, but I couldn't eat another taco while I still had one, going down my throat.
No, but I guess you could carry it in your cheeks or something like a chipmunk.
Yeah. Well, hey, we got some more stuff about this lake that was that added to the decision-making process and the challenges, but we'll be right back, guys. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
There you go.
This podcast is proudly powered by Battleborn Batteries. Let the power of lithium take you on your journeys across the outdoor world. Battleborn Batteries designs and assembles the industry's top choice for lithium-ion batteries right here in the USA. Reliable, safe, and long-lasting, Battleborn makes for the sustainable and lightweight drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries. Ready to make the switch to lithium and the switch to green energy? All batteries are in stock now. Shop today at battlebornbatteries.com.
All right, guys, we're back. We're talking about Lake Eufala, Hobie Bass Open Series tournament going on down there this past weekend. So, David, we've talked a little bit about, our thoughts, our practices and our experiences during the tournament and whatnot. But, let's talk about another factor that you don't typically have to deal with on most lakes. And I heard it from a couple of guys that were like, man, I caught some fish in this area, but there were so many gators in there, it's not worth the risk. Oh, sorry, guys.
More than I ever remembered being in that lake.
Yeah.
And there's some big ones.
Yeah. There was.
I on day 2, I had another little stretch I wanted to go fish. And literally where I told you the gator was guarding that opening to that little pond, a little further down, I got to there that afternoon. I was like, you know what, I got a couple more minutes. I'm going to try to fish down this one bank because it's something I hadn't fished yet. Like, I hadn't fished, nobody else had fished this other. I caught some fish. Let's go through here and just see if we can catch one. And I'm headed down the bank and I'm fishing the grass line, and there's a little point comes out, and there's a gator sitting right on front of us. Like, all right, I'll give him the point. I go to move out into the main lake. The gator follows me out to the main lake. I'm like, all right. So I did a little U-turn, and I went to go in towards the grass line. So the gator turns around and follows me in towards the grass line. I'm like, okay, let's try this again. So I do another little loop around, and I come back out towards the main lake, and he comes out towards the main lake and dips under. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I want to go past that point after all. So I turned around and I went back. I was like, I don't know what this guy's got in his mind. I'm going the other direction. I'm just going to skip it.
Yeah. Well, we've talked a lot about this, on the ride home and stuff. We were cutting up about the Gators and whatnot. We all were down there the entire time, but it was really interesting, man, because I kind of took note that they don't really, they're real skittish, I mean, for the most part, you come within 20 feet of them, or 20 yards of them, and they're just, they dip down, they're gone,
Yeah.
But what I did notice is that the ones that would stay, like you, because in a kayak you're creeping on up on these things, that they're probably like, I would imagine that being in a kayak as going as slow as you are, I mean, just knowing that an alligator can't rationalize, and make they can't make logic of things, that they may be looking at you like you're something similar to what they are.
Right.
Because you're moving so slow.
Yeah.
So for the most part, they, sometimes, when you're just really moving slow, just kind of letting the wind drift you or whatever, or just, half stroking on the pedals, and those Hobies, that you would just really creep upon them, and they wouldn't really move as much. But I noticed that a couple of times that whenever you get kind of relatively close to them, man, they would start moving out away from the bank, around from you, like out in front of you, and then they would start quarter mooning you, and kind of like blocking you into the bank. I think it was kind of like a defensive tactic. Like, hey, we're cool, but if you try to make a move, I've got you pinned on the bank, and I'm going to get you.
Yeah.
And when I saw that, I was like, all right, brother, I'm going to go ahead and move along here. Nothing to see.
Nothing to do.
We're moving along.
Yeah, I tried to get good pictures. I saw literally the biggest gator of the weekend on my way in on Sunday. And I wanted to get close enough to get a picture, but every time I would move towards him, he would go under. And then I'd turn to move away, and he'd come back up. And literally, that I would love to know. He was so far away when I take a picture, you could barely see it in the camera. But I mean, I could see him because when I first saw it, I just thought it was a big log sitting out in the middle of that little bay. Yeah. And I know that one was 12 and a half or bigger. And I would have loved to have stuck my boat up there, at least close enough I could get a good judge. Not too much, but close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot. Everybody was like, man, our buddy Brandon. He in practice, he said that he was carrying his gun with him, and he said he had to stand up and draw on one. And everybody becomes Rambo. Like, oh, I'll stand up and shoot that damn thing. But I forgot mine in the truck every single time. I wasn't too overly concerned about them. Because I would be more concerned if you heard a lot of stories or more stories about there actually being gator attacks, but you never hear about them.
You don't have anything to worry about with most of them.
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, if you accidentally got right up on top of one, it might spook you, and he might.
Yeah, or if they're guarding their eggs, but
that'd be another thing.
I like this from Seth. He says, I know Bill Dance beat the heck out of a 3-foot gator with his fishing rod on his bloopers.
3-foot gator doesn't bother me at all. I'll power up on one of them jokers. But
yeah, get out of the way. But I was thinking, I was like, man, if I had to, that aluminum catch board would come in handy if I had to beat one over there.
It's heavy enough.
It would.
Damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, those little 3-footers or 4-footers, they don't bother me. I got really close to a bunch of those. 8 to 9, they begin to, I'm gonna give it a little bit more respect. But anything as big as the kayak, I'm gonna leave it alone. So
yeah. There were a couple that were just kind of like hanging up around the docks and stuff. One guy he posted a picture. You saw it. It was like a big 15, 16-foot gator. Big old mama. They had to relocate it because it was kind of just hanging around the ramp,
Yeah.
But I saw another one that was kind of hanging around the ramp over there by the bridge.
Up at Hobie or whatever it was.
Yeah, whichever the only bridge that went across the lake. I never paid attention to the name of it.
Yeah.
But I did have one occurrence, and that it was like, a little grass patch up in a little cut off the river. I mean, I got like 10 feet away from that thing. And that entire, I mean, it was the grass patch was like the size of a car. And that entire grass patch just erupted with chaos. And, that chaos came at me, in a form of a huge wake. And I thought I was going to be putting in a warranty claim on that 360 drive because I couldn't pedal that thing fast enough.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was. There were some big ones. It was fun. I enjoyed. I love seeing gators. It's one of those things. I'd much rather see gators than snakes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I love to see gators when I'm out, out there on those trips, and like I said, they don't really bother me too bad. They don't make me overly nervous, but it is, you just have to show a little respect. That's all, especially the bigger ones.
Yeah, it was fun, but it did seem to play into a factor. Maybe a very small factor, but it seemed, but those small factors can sometimes dictate, your overall decision. And for some people, it kind of seemed to dictate their decisions on where they were going to go. But,
yeah.
But
oh yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I don't know. You can't let that kind of stuff bother you too badly. But I mean, there was other factors at hand that probably interrupted my fishing a lot more than the gators did. But
yeah, well,
mental state part of the weekend with some of the things and just how tough it was, and it was not what I expected. I expected this to be a slugfest.
Yeah. When you go into a tournament like that, I mean that is a switch that's hard to turn off.
Yeah.
I would say differently. Like okay, if it's like fall, but in fall you're not typically going into a tournament thinking it's going to be a slugfest, but or even summer. I don't know, or early spring. That's probably the best example. Early spring, you almost expect like it's a 50-50 chance. It could be a slugfest or, right. It's going to be really tough. But hindsight 2020, dude, what's what would you have done different?
Paid more attention. I would have paid more attention to the conditions and been further south on the lake on day 2. Instead of doing what I did and went back up way further north and re-looked at not a different area of the same creek, but further up. I should have left that alone and went further south, and I would have spent less time. And this is one of the things that I preach to people all the time, and it's another one of those cardinal rules I broke this weekend. Letting too much chatter go into the back of my head. I mean, other people's conditions, other people's thinking. I let the chatter get to me a little bit instead of going and doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
I am rethinking the whole trolling motor thing so I can get further along during my practices. So you very well may see a trolling motor on my boat by Broken Boat. So don't be surprised.
Well, we've talked a little bit about that. Trolling motor or motor? Well, for years it would be a stern mounted.
No, yes, for mine it would be a stern mounted. It would be an MK 180, just so I can jet through to areas and then control it with the boat.
Yeah, I hear you.
So,
well, for me, it would. I think for me, I was around fish. I was in the right area. I mean, it was. I think fish live in that area because the creek channel swung right up next to it, the entire way. So they had shallow water with, deep water access right there. I think that I was around fish. I think that I left too early on Saturday and missed the bite window. So for me, I feel like, it's probably, more of a piece of understanding when that bite window is going to be throughout the day. I'm not necessarily saying that it's the lunar calendar. Maybe that's a factor. Maybe that's something I start looking at more, but I felt like, I needed to stay there. I mean, there were guys, there were crappie anglers that were coming up. They were going to very specific brush piles and they were sitting there for 8 hours. I saw it on Thursday. The same guys were sitting there all day. Right. For 8 hours. And they knew, they just knew like, hey, I'm going to catch one every hour, every 2 hours or every 30 minutes, whatever it was. But, they were committed to staying there and waiting on that bite window.
Right.
And I felt like that was the piece that I missed on day one, because and day two for me, it's when you zero on day one, man, day two is really hard to come back from. Or day one is really hard to come back from on day two. But I felt like presentation also kind of played a big factor into it as well. I didn't finesse anything. Texas rigged. I got down to a Cinco, and that was about it. Now, granted, I did break the rod tip off my spinning rod, so. But if I would have been if I would have been a little bit more thoughtful on the presentation, I would have pulled out my jerkbait rod, which I had with me with 10-pound line on it, and I just would have rigged up a drop shot on that. But I was just like, I was so locked into the chatter, like you mentioned, and just the expectations, the what do you call it? Anyways, the expectations of like, this is going to be this is a big bass lake, it's going to be a slugfest, and staying locked into that, and blaming it more so on what's going on, the pressure, this or that, than just slowing down and changing my presentation or something like that. But I'm with you. It definitely did seem like the area of the lake, and played a big factor, and I think a lot of that had to do with the water clarity. That lower end of the lake was just cleaner, so that falls into the consistency, consistency, like with water clarity and water temperature and stuff like that fish like. But we're moving forward. We got Broken Bow coming up in a couple of weeks. That's a totally different lake, more of like a highland reservoir. Got a nice river flowing into it. But Oklahoma, and then June 1st, I know you're not signed up for it, but we got Chickamauga.
Yep.
And of course the St. Jude Kayak Bass Classic as well, or Bass Classic. I don't know, that's why it's a tongue twister. Bass Classic as well as Kayak Classic coming up May 19th. So we got a couple of weeks left to do your mail-in registration for that if you're interested in that tournament. $100 or $90, and then as a $10 big bass side pot for the kayak tournament. If you go to linesandyakfishing.com, there is a link up at the top of tab for St. Jude Kayak Tournament. It's got the rules as well as the mail-in registration form. Or go and see David over at Primary. Support one of our sponsors for the show. Go and buy some tackle, and while you're there, you can pick up a mail-in registration as well.
Yep,
but
Yep.
So we're giving away a Hobie Passport 12, man. I mean, that's an awesome prize, dude. What I wanted to ask you, what color is it?
So the one we have for this one is going to be the seagrass and white. So
I like it.
It's the yellow top with the white bottom. It's a great little starter platform for a guy who wants a pedal kayak. Hard to beat. Only weighs 63 pounds. But even if you already have a nice big yak, great present for your wife, great present for your girlfriend, great present for one of your kids. I mean, it's an awesome recreation boat as well. It's kind of that nice median between rec or fishing. You can do either out of it. Good stable platform. You can stand in it for a 63, and it's only 63 pounds. So I mean, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah,
easy to haul around, easy to deal with. I mean, I can pick one of them up, put it over my head, and carry it. It ain't no biggie.
Yeah,
other than the 12-foot part makes it a little wobbly, but other than that, I can do it. It ain't hard.
Yeah,
so, a lot easier to get my Outback.
Yeah, I mean, to that note, I saw a lot of guys, and you see this where you have rivers that you got skinny water. I saw a lot of anglers that had extra boats, those passports, those links, and other brands that, are more designed for river fishing, skinny water, that brought them down there, So you want to have an extra boat to take with you in case you need to get up in some skinny water, man. That's a great boat for it. It's a great boat, not only with the pedal drive, but it's a lot easier to paddle than your big Outbacks or your pro anglers.
Yep.
So, David, anything else going on that you wanna mention?
I mean, I have a papaya Outback in the shop right now. Actually, it's not out; it's sitting in the side room. I do have another PA14 camo 180 in stock right now, and beauty of it is it's a blim, and so it's discounted, so you can get into a PA 180 for about about $380 less than normal. So I mean, that's a savings. I mean, it'll cover those taxes.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of good ones there. Still have a Lynx in stock. We have a couple of the new canoes out there rigged up. One with a bow mount, one with an NK 180 on the back, rigged up and ready to go. You can come in and buy a boat with a troll motor on it. All you gotta do is load it in the truck and go.
There you go.
That unlimited with the NK 180 is pretty dang sweet.
Yeah. Go get you a Battleborn battery. Man, I'm overly impressed with that thing every time I go out, dude. I mean, I'm going everywhere I want to go in a day's time, never losing power. I haven't killed it yet. I've put over 12 miles on that battery in a very inefficient motor, at full throttle. That XI3 is not a very efficient motor at all.
Yeah.
And I'm going over 12 miles with it in a day at full throttle most of the time. So pretty impressive. But yeah, go and check them out. Go and check out SY Wilson Primary Tackle, as well as Battleborn Batteries. Support these great companies. But man, I had a lot of fun, David. At Eufala, despite not catching fish. I think, man. Kind of going back to that quote where I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to read it again. Work like there is someone working 24 hours a day to take it away from you, even when you fail. Keep working, guys, because we've seen some of our really good friends that we've had here on the channel that haven't that also zeroed and that have been having some difficult seasons as well.
Yeah.
And man, you just got to keep pushing forward. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard here lately, just through listening to some other podcasts and stuff, not really looking for this kind of information, but just hearing it. Was some people were talking about how you just act like you're not in a slump. Sometimes we get in these slumps and you can't dwell on it. You can't think about it. You just can't think about it, man. You just got to get it out of your head and just go fishing. That's just, you got to love the sport. You got to love what you do, and then let everything else fall where it may. But anything else?
Yeah, that and what you just said, that makes perfectly good sense. And it's one of the things in conversations on the way home with different people. And what I told everybody is, look, I had a tough tournament this week. I've had a couple other tough tournaments this year, but I've been putting a good day here, a good day there. You just got to put the two good days together and put them together and make some good decisions, and you can get where you need to get to. It just takes one good one. So you got to keep working. That's all there is to it. It's all about practice and getting it done and figuring it out.
Exactly. Well, hey, we just want to say thanks to everybody. We're coming up on that hour. Seth, Clint, everybody in the comments, Steve, Cody, Dave Walker, man, good to see all you guys. Glad you stopped in and checked us out tonight. Anybody else that may watch this after we go off live, thank you all for tuning in tonight. David, we're going to get out of here, man. Hope you guys have great rest of your week. Hope you're able to get out and catch some fish this weekend. And we'll catch you next Tuesday.
One more thing. Arlington in April is Saturday. If you're coming out to SY, you're not going to be able to park in our parking lot. Just warning you, you're going to have to walk. But it's going to be a good time. Lots of food trucks, lots of stuff going on the square this weekend. So it's going to be a cool weekend for it.
Is that both Saturday and Sunday?
Just Saturday.
What time does it start?
And then it'll be Sunday. It's 10 to 4 on Saturday.
Okay. Any bands coming?
No bands. That won't start until May.
Okay. Still sounds like a good time.
So
I might come out there and see you.
All right.
All right, guys. We're getting out of here. Y'all take care.
Thanks.